The story did not begin with an argument or a dramatic confession. It began quietly, inside a house that had held nearly 50 years of memories. Henry and Margaret had been married for 47 years, long enough for love to transform into routine and for silence to become more common than conversation. Their home was clean, their schedules predictable, and their days peaceful on the surface, yet something invisible had slowly settled between them. Henry had grown uncomfortable with the way attention faded as life moved forward. Their children were grown, visitors were rare, and the world no longer revolved around him. Margaret, on the other hand, had learned to find peace in simplicity. She filled her days with small routines, quiet strength and acceptance. What Henry felt as neglect, Margaret saw as the natural rhythm of aging. That difference would soon change everything. One morning, Henry decided not to get out of bed. He groaned softly at first, then louder, placing a hand over his chest and breathing as though every movement caused pain. When Margaret came to check on him, he spoke in a weak voice, describing a discomfort he could not clearly explain. He insisted something was wrong, but resisted every suggestion of seeing a doctor. Instead, he asked for rest, attention and care. Margaret listened carefully. She checked his temperature, watched his breathing, and studied his movements. Everything appeared normal, yet she agreed to stay close and help him through the day. She had spent decades caring for others, and she knew when concern was genuine and when it was performed. Still, she chose silence. As days passed, Henry seemed to enjoy his condition. Family members called with worry, neighbors stopped by, and sympathy surrounded him like a warm blanket. His weakness appeared and disappeared conveniently, fading when laughter filled the room or when his favorite meals were served. Margaret noticed everything. She saw him move easily when he believed he was alone, heard the strength return to his voice during long phone calls, and watched his energy rise whenever attention was directed toward him. She did not accuse him, argue, or expose him. Instead, she continued caring, waiting, and observing, because she understood something Henry did not yet realize. This was not about illness. It was about fear of being forgotten. Henry had never learned how to ask for emotional closeness. As life slowed down, he felt invisible, unsure of his place in a world that no longer demanded his strength. Rather than admit his loneliness, he created a role where sympathy filled the space communication should have occupied. Margaret understood this deeply because she had endured real struggles without performance or praise. She had survived loss, exhaustion, and disappointment while remaining steady and quiet. Compared to what she had faced, Henry's act was transparent. Yet she did not expose him, because she knew truth spoken too early becomes rejection, not understanding. The moment of change came unexpectedly. One afternoon, Henry collapsed onto the couch, groaning loudly enough to draw attention from outside the house. Margaret, calm and deliberate, called emergency services despite his protests. When medical professionals examined him, there was no sign of illness, no emergency, and no explanation for his symptoms. Henry's discomfort shifted from physical to emotional, as the reality of the situation became clear. He felt seen in a way he had not intended. The performance was over. When the house returned to silence, Margaret sat with him, not in anger, but with honesty she had held back for far too long. She told him she knew the truth, not with accusation, but with quiet certainty. She explained that she had recognized his loneliness long before he pretended to be sick, and that she had chosen patience instead of confrontation. Henry broke down, admitting that he only wanted to feel important again, to feel needed in a life that seemed to move forward without him. Margaret listened, reminding him that strength is not pretending to suffer, and attention gained through deception only deepens isolation. She explained that partnership means honesty, even when it feels uncomfortable, and that vulnerability spoken openly is far more powerful than weakness performed for sympathy. After that day, things changed, not dramatically, but truthfully. Margaret stopped enabling the illusion and began treating Henry as an equal again. Henry learned to speak openly instead of hiding behind false pain. Their connection did not return to what it once was, but it became real again, built on honesty rather than fear. No medicine healed Henry, and no apology erased the past, but understanding created a new beginning. The illness was never in his body. It was in the silence he had been afraid to break. And the woman he thought he was deceiving had known the truth all along, quietly waiting for the moment when he would finally be ready to face it. After that quiet confession, the days inside the house began to feel different, heavier at first, as if both of them were learning how to walk again after years of pretending everything was fine. Henry struggled with the absence of constant sympathy, and the silence he once feared now forced him to confront his own thoughts. Margaret did not withdraw her care, but she no longer rushed or hovered. Instead, she encouraged him to join her in small, ordinary moments, shared meals, slow evening walks, conversations without drama or performance. These simple acts felt unfamiliar to Henry, yet they slowly restored something he had been missing: dignity. He began to realize that attention earned through honesty felt warmer and longer lasting than sympathy gained through deception. In time, Henry spoke more openly about his fears, his regrets, and the way aging had made him feel replaceable. Margaret listened without judgment, offering understanding instead of rescue. The house that once echoed with quiet resentment now carried gentle conversation and mutual respect. There was no grand apology and no dramatic promise of change, only consistent effort and truth. And in that calm ending, Henry finally understood what Margaret had known all along: that real care does not come from pretending to be broken, but from allowing yourself to be truly seen. As the seasons changed outside their windows, Henry and Margaret settled into a new rhythm that felt slower, but more sincere than anything they had known in years. There were moments when old habits tried to return, when Henry felt the urge to exaggerate his discomfort or retreat into silence. But now he caught himself and chose honesty instead. Margaret, steady and patient, met him with quiet reassurance rather than indulgence. Their marriage was no longer about seeking sympathy or proving strength. It became about shared presence and acceptance. In the end, the greatest healing came not from attention or care, but from the simple truth that being understood is far more powerful than being pitied. With time, Henry discovered that the respect he now felt from Margaret was deeper than any sympathy he had once chased. He learned to value the calm moments they spent together, the shared cups of tea, the unspoken understanding, the comfort of simply sitting in the same room without pretending. Margaret, in turn, found peace in knowing that her patience had led them here, to a place where honesty replaced illusion. Their story did not end with applause or dramatic change, but with something far more meaningful: a quiet, truthful companionship that proved it is never too late to choose sincerity over pretense.